This is the story of 5 friends who wanted to embark on an exciting adventure. To fulfill their thrill-seeking desires, they decided to trek through a dangerous jungle and climb towering mountains. However, their journey took a terrifying turn as they found themselves in grave danger. What challenges will they face? Will they be able to escape the jungle alive? Let's dive into this gripping story. The film starts by introducing the group of 5 friends. There were 2 boys and 2 girls. One of the girls was named Chloe, and the others were her close companions. They had all decided to go hiking to enjoy nature and challenge themselves. Joining the group was their 5th friend, Gaumont. However, not everyone was happy about Gaumont presence. Chloe's friends, in particular, were uneasy. One of them reassured the group, "Don't worry, he won't ruin our trip." Chloe herself felt uncomfortable with Gaumont's inclusion in the group. This was because a few years ago, Gaumont had expressed feelings for her, and all her friends were aware of this. The past made Chloe uneasy. Karen, one of her closest friends, tried to calm her down, saying, "Don't worry. He's just here to spend time with us and won't bother you." After setting aside their concerns, the friends captured a cheerful group picture and started their journey. They were enjoying the beautiful scenery as they drove through lush landscapes, but Chloe seemed lost in thought, frequently glancing at Gaumont. She appeared troubled and unable to fully immerse herself in the moment. After driving far from the city, the group reached the jungle, where they parked their car and continued their journey on foot. Their plan was to hike to the top of the mountain and return by evening. As they walked deeper into the jungle, Gaumont struck up a conversation with Chloe. He asked, "Why do you seem so distant?" and added, "I've moved on from the past and just want to rebuild our friendship." Chloe chose not to respond and avoided engaging further. Eventually, the group encountered a blocked path. Karen's friend volunteered to climb the mountain and scout the area ahead. Despite the others urging him to be cautious, he confidently began the climb. Once he reached the top, he called out, "The road is clear. We can proceed from here," and threw down a rope for the others to climb. With effort and teamwork, the friends climbed up the mountain and resumed their journey. They soon found themselves on a narrow mountain trail, surrounded by steep cliffs. The path was equipped with iron bars for safety, and the group carefully attached their hooks to them as they moved forward. Everyone seemed to enjoy the thrilling experience, except for Chloe's timid friend, who was visibly scared. Chloe reassured him with kind words, saying, "Don't worry. I'm right here with you." As they progressed, the group came across a shaky wooden bridge connecting 2 cliffs. Karen's friend, who was leading the group, examined the bridge and said, "This is the only way forward. We need to cross one at a time to avoid overloading it." Karen's friend went first, crossing the fragile bridge cautiously. One by one, the others followed. However, Chloe's friend hesitated, frightened by the height. Chloe comforted him, saying, "You don't need to be afraid. We're all here to help you." Encouraged by her words, he managed to cross the bridge. Now it was Karen's turn, but as she made her way across, the group noticed the bridge cables starting to loosen. They shouted, "Hurry, Karen! The bridge is breaking." Terrified, Karen quickened her pace, but the bridge collapsed just as she secured herself with her hook. She dangled precariously, clinging to the remaining cables. Karen's friend threw her a rope and, with the help of the group, managed to pull her to safety. Shaken and in tears, Karen was consoled by her friends. When they checked their map, they realized that the broken bridge was their only way back. With no choice but to press forward, the group decided to continue their journey in hopes of finding an alternate route. As they advanced along the rocky trail, they came to a dead end where the cables abruptly stopped. Realizing they were trapped, Karen and her friend decided to climb up the rock face to scout for another way. Meanwhile, the others waited below, hanging from the cables. Chloe's friend, already terrified, began to panic. "I can't hold on anymore. I'm slipping," he cried. Chloe tried to calm him, saying, "Stay still. You're safe on the cable." Despite her efforts, he lost his grip and was left dangling by his hook, causing the cable to sway dangerously. The extra weight made Gaumont lose his footing, and he also ended up hanging from the cable. Panicked, Chloe's friend began shaking violently. Gillum tried to steady him, saying, "Stop moving or we'll all fall." Meanwhile, at the top of the rock face, Karen and her friend were searching for a path but found none. As Karen's friend moved forward, he accidentally stepped into a trap. His leg was caught, and he screamed in pain as the sharp jaws of the trap dug into his flesh. Blood poured from the wound, and Karen tried desperately to free him, but the trap was too strong. Karen's friend, writhing in agony, urged her, "Go back and help the others." "I'll wait here." Reluctantly, Karen descended the rock face and threw a rope to her friends below, helping them climb to safety. When they reached the top, Karen informed them about her friend's plight. The group rushed to the spot where he was trapped, but to their horror, he was gone. The trap lay empty, and there were signs of a struggle. Terrified and confused, they searched for him in the surrounding area. Karen was distraught, repeatedly saying, "I left him here." Where could he have gone? The group was gripped with fear as they realized something or someone had taken him. Chloe's friend, overcome with frustration, accused Karen, "This is all your fault. If he hadn't insisted on coming here, none of this would have happened." Karen retaliated angrily, "You're the real problem here, always causing troubles." Chloe stepped in to defuse the situation, saying, "Fighting won't help. We need to stick together and find him before nightfall." The group ventured deeper into the jungle, calling out for their missing friend, but received no response. Suddenly, Chloe slipped and fell into a deep pit. The others rushed to the edge, calling her name, but there was no answer. Karen decided to go down the pit with a rope. Inside, she found sharp spikes and traps scattered everywhere. She eventually spotted Chloe, sitting in the dark and crying. One of the spikes had pierced her arm, immobilizing her with pain. Karen carefully freed her, and they climbed out of the pit together. Fear gripped the group as they realized someone had deliberately set these traps. "Someone's watching us," Karen whispered, her voice trembling. Meanwhile, Karen's friend, who was unconscious, was being dragged away by an unknown figure. Night had fallen, and the group huddled together, moving cautiously through the dark, rain-soaked jungle, their flashlights their only guide. The rain poured relentlessly as the group pressed forward, desperately searching for Karen's friend. Karen, overwhelmed with exhaustion and despair, began to cry. She had nothing but a rope and her flashlight for support. Chloe and the others tried to console her, saying, "Don't worry. We're with you. We won't leave until we find him." Determined, the group tied themselves together with the rope to stay connected in the dark. But their unity was short-lived when an arrow suddenly struck Karen's chest. She collapsed in pain as the rope was severed. Chloe rushed toward her, but before she could reach Karen, a shadowy figure emerged and dragged Karen into the darkness. The others, horrified, followed the sound of Karen's screams, only to find themselves deeper in danger. Chloe was inconsolable, sobbing uncontrollably as her friends tried to calm her. The rain made it impossible to move forward quickly, so the group sought shelter under thick bushes. They knew staying out in the cold and rain was dangerous, and Chloe's friend suggested finding a safer place. After a while, they spotted a small house in the distance. Unsure of who or what might live there, they hesitated to approach. But with no other choice, they decided to enter cautiously. Inside the house, they discovered a horrifying sight. Karen's friend was lying unconscious on a table, stripped of his clothing, with deep wounds across his body. As they approached him, he briefly regained consciousness and tried to say something, but his injuries were too severe. Before he could utter a word, he took his final breath and died in front of them. The group was devastated. Chloe broke down in tears and clung to Gillum for comfort, a sight that made Chloe's friend visibly jealous. Overcome with fear and anger, the group debated their next move. Gillum insisted they needed to find Karen's friend's bag, as it contained supplies crucial for their survival. Chloe's friend opposed the idea, saying, "It's too dangerous to stay here any longer." Ignoring his protests, Gillum decided to explore the basement of the house alone. As he descended, he was greeted by a nightmarish scene. Animal carcasses hung from the ceiling, and the stench of death filled the air. Looking around, Gillum found the bag, but was horrified to see severed human heads hanging on display. He realized they were dealing with a deranged killer. Grabbing the bag, he quickly climbed back up. However, as Gillum emerged, Chloe's friend snatched the bag from him and pushed him back into the basement, locking the door. Furious, Gillum yelled from below, but Chloe's friend ignored him and tried to force Chloe to leave with him. Before they could escape, a deranged, crazed man burst into the room. He attacked them, knocking both to the ground. The man dragged Chloe toward the basement, where he restrained her alongside Gillum. Meanwhile, Chloe's friend tried to escape, but the man intercepted him and beat him mercilessly before leaving him for dead. The killer returned to the basement and began tormenting Chloe and Gillum, who were tied up. He taunted them as they struggled to free themselves. Gillum reassured Chloe, saying, "I'll get us out of here. I promise." But the man turned his attention to Gillum, killing him in front of Chloe. He then took Chloe to another room, tying her up as he prepared to kill her. Holding a knife, he walked toward her menacingly. At the same time, Chloe's friend, who had survived the earlier attack, returned to the house. Armed with a rock, he struck the killer from behind, temporarily incapacitating him. Enraged, the killer turned his attention to Chloe's friend, chasing him out of the house. Taking advantage of the distraction, Chloe freed herself and unlocked the basement door, where she found Gillum barely alive. She helped him out of the basement, and the two embraced, grateful to have survived. Gillum told Chloe, "We need to leave immediately. That man will come back." But Chloe refused to leave without trying to rescue her other friend. As morning broke, Chloe's friend was still running for his life, injured and terrified. The killer, relentless in his pursuit, shot an arrow that pierced his leg, causing him to stumble. Despite his injury, Chloe's friend continued to flee, eventually reaching a signpost near the cliff. However, the killer caught up to him and attacked again. In a desperate attempt to defend himself, Chloe's friend pulled the arrow from his leg and stabbed the killer in the leg. Taking advantage of the killer's momentary pain, Chloe's friend struck him with a rock and climbed a nearby ladder to escape. The killer, hearing Chloe and Gillum approaching, retreated into the shadows. Chloe and Gillum arrived at the cliff and found Chloe's friend hanging precariously from the ladder. Gillum reached out to help him up, but hesitated. Remembering how Chloe's friend had pushed him into the basement earlier, Gillum's desire for revenge took over. Pretending his grip was slipping, Gillum released Chloe's friend, letting him fall to his death. Horrified, Chloe screamed in despair. Gillum tried to calm her, but before he could say anything, an arrow struck him in the head, killing him instantly. Chloe, now consumed with rage and grief, picked up a knife and charged at the killer. The two engaged in a brutal fight, with Chloe narrowly escaping multiple attacks. In the end, she managed to stab the killer in the neck. Watching him suffer, she fled, leaving him behind. Chloe escaped the jungle alone, tears streaming down her face as she reflected on the loss of her friends. What began as an adventure had turned into a nightmare, leaving her scarred for life. This story teaches us a valuable lesson. Thrill-seeking adventures in dangerous places can have devastating consequences. Sometimes, it's better to prioritize safety over excitement. And with that, this harrowing tale comes to an end.